Welcome back to another episode of Sueños to Success. Hey, Dreams to Success, where I feature individual stories of folks that have overcome all kinds of trauma and adversity and are doing incredible things in life, um, defining their own version of success. Today, wait till you hear about this young person that I have here who is a first in many, many ways. He's first in the family, first to go to college, first to overcome so many adversities, first to build a healthy life for himself and his loved ones. And he's continuing that growth. And that's what we're featuring today. That is what we're talking about today. We're talking about being first in the generations, first in the family to make it places to succeed, to turn those sueños into success. So, what does it mean to be first generation? And how do you carry the responsibility of being a shining light for your family and community? These questions go to the heart of resilience, sacrifice, and triumph. I'm Dr. Victor Rios, and today we're joined by Jose Anzaldo. Welcome, Jose.
Much.
It's good
Pleasure
to
to be
have you,
here.
man. At such a young age, 21 years old, you've already accomplished so many firsts. Some of you might know Jose as the star of the critically acclaimed documentary East of Salinas, featured on PBS. His story, rooted in the agricultural fields of California and soaring to the heights of academic achievement, is a testament to perseverance, hope, and giving back to one's community. I just have to say that I watched the film as I prepared for a keynote address. I was supposed to go to the Salinas City Elementary School District. They had brought me in to speak to 1,000 or so educators in Salinas, California, and I always do my research before I go to any community, any organization. So I was doing my research. I'm getting ready for this big keynote address on a stage, 1 hour long, 1,000 people. And as I'm doing my research online, I run into this story, a movie. It's called East of Salinas. And I said, let me watch this movie. I start to watch it. And there's a little kid that's featured in the movie. And he's walking around, at his school. And he's got a teacher there that's helping him out. And then there's a moment in the film where his mom opens the fridge there at home, and his mom is an agricultural worker in the fields of Salinas. She's someone that's out there picking lettuce, and she opens the fridge, and this is like a culminating moment in the film. Opens the fridge, there's no food, and then there's the little boy, Jose, and then he's got a couple little siblings, and his job is to make sure they get fed and taken to school while his mom leaves to work at 5 in the morning. So the film ends. I'm in like shock. It's like a powerful story, but the little boy ends up in 5th grade, and then the film just ends. And I show up to this community of Salinas. I get on the stage. I'm talking to 1,000 educators, and I asked them, "Hey, have you watched this film, East of Salinas?" And some of the educators raised their hand and they said yes. Then I asked, "Does anyone know this kid, Jose?" And then there's one person in the audience went like this. And it happened to be his teacher, Mr. Ramos, who was Jose's teacher. And he tells me, "I know where he is." So I'm trying to figure this out, right? He's on the bottom of the stage telling me I know where he is. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I'm looking forward to hearing." I finished my presentation. And all of a sudden, Mr. Ramos comes up to me and he goes, "That 5th grader, film ended when he's in 5th grade. Jose, he grew up and now he's a, a UC Berkeley student on a full ride scholarship." Oh man, that was a beautiful moment. Just hearing that, Jose, I got teary eyed, and I see you
Thank you.
reacting with that emotion. So, how does
Thank
it
you.
feel to be in a place where now your teacher is saying, "Hey, you know what? Um, that kid is at UC Berkeley on a full ride scholarship. He got there because he's trying to help his family and his community?
I think for me, it's a mix of emotions. You know, I have so much pride. I'm so glad because now I get to represent the community just like I've promised Mr. Ramos, because Mr. Ramos has dedicated so much time, money, and just so many things just for me to be able to get here. And there was one time when I asked him like, well, like how can I return this huge favor that you've done for me? Because it feels like you've given me too much. And all he said was, come back and serve your community well and represent it,
Wow.
right? And to me, that's always stuck with me. And now every time that I move forward with any step, anything that I do in life, I always have my community first because my community has grown to be like family.
That's beautiful. And you know, community is family, and community is what you make of it too. And so I want to start from the beginning because you came into this community of Salinas as a little boy and in struggle. So can you take us back? What was it like growing up, single mother, um, struggling, moving around places? And a lot of times you're having to look out for your younger siblings. And I know your older brother looked out for you too. What
Yeah.
was that like being that little boy, kind of, figuring out that you needed to both be a child at school, taking care of business, but then kind of like a little adult, uh, taking care of responsibility.
I think it's always been very difficult, even still today, to be able to have that balance of, you know, I'm yes, I'm a student, I'm someone representing my community, but I'm also someone's brother, someone's son, right? And I have to take initiative in that as well. I think for me, what's made it easier to be able to find that balance and be able to navigate both worlds is having the right mindset to carry it, to carry through all of that weight. I've always been a very optimistic person, very hopeful person
How
because
young were you? Like you were like this little boy, right?
yeah,
And mom's like, "Hey, I gotta go to work." Take me back to that moment where like, how old are you? Mom's like, "I gotta go to work," and you're in charge. What age and what's going on through your mind?
I think the moment that we moved into the area of Sherwood Elementary School, that was the moment where that shift had to happen, because things were just getting way too expensive for my mom, considering the wage that she earned, earning only about $12 to $13 an hour. And that's something that I know now through experience because now I've actually worked in the agriculture fields and I've seen the paycheck that comes with it.
So you go back and you work the fields.
Yeah, because
Wow.
I think it's important because it's like it's a reminder of what my mom is going through even to this day. Like right now, she's clocking in, working at work, and I know what it feels like. I can feel it, even though like I haven't done the work in a while, I can still feel what it's like. Um,
So when was the last time you went to the field to work?
Last summer,
Last summer, what were you
hmm
picking?
I was doing fresas,
Fresas,
mm,
strawberries.
strawberries.
And so that, I mean, walk me through a day. I still want to go back to when you're little Jose, taking care of your
Yeah,
siblings, but walk me through your day of picking strawberries. And
yeah.
I know as a Berkeley student, you got other opportunities for work, but you make a choice to go feel what it's like for your mom and other hardworking people to pick the vegetables and fruits, um, the produce at a lower wage. Walk us through that day. What's that like?
Yeah, so the whole reason why I do that type of work because growing up I was, my mom's goal was for me to never have to, do that sort of work, but for me it's like I'm getting to a point where I'm starting to reach the clouds. I'm reaching for the stars, but I'm reaching the clouds right now. But the whole reason why I even tried to do that sort of work is because I want to know what it's like to feel the ground level so that if I ever fall, I have somewhere like to fall and rebuild myself back up. So for me, what it looked like a day to day working in the strawberries is waking up at like 3, 4 in the morning, preparing a meal. I mean, even at that time, we're still low income, so the meal is not something fancy. It's probably like a burrito with beans and egg inside. And then once we're done with that, we head out to the fields, which is probably like a 30, 40 minute drive. And for me, I remember being confident, like I can do this. Like I'm not the most fit guy, but I'm very capable, right? And I go to the fields. I, my mom's giving me pointers of things to keep in mind. Hey, don't look up. Always work because in this space you are replaceable.
Whoa, hold on. Let me pause right there. Don't look up. Say how she would say in Spanish, in español.
Mi hijo, no quiero que te distraigas. No quiero que mires para arriba porque siempre te van a estar mirando.
Whoa. Keep your head in the game because they're always watching you.
Yeah, and that's something that gave me so much more perspective of my mom is that she's not only done this type of work, but she's doing a work that at any moment she could have been replaced. So even as the years went by and it's costed her health, she's made sure to keep a quality of work so that she can maintain that connection. Like, yes, we always want you to come work with us, right? And so that was eye opening.
So your mom's there telling you how to make sure to keep handling business.
Yeah.
It's morning time. She's telling you this. Continue with your day.
Yeah. Giving me perspective about how to feel about the mayordomo. Mayordomo is like the person who overlooks the workers that are there,
friendly guy?
Not all the time. Not all the time. They're there, there's no pressure for them to have to be a nice person. If they're a nice person, that's just because they're nice people, but they have no obligation to do so.
You ran into any guys that are supervising you all that are just being mean, being assholes?
Yeah, so we start our work at 7 a.m, and I had an instance where, it was probably like 6:50, 6:55, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to start my work. Let me put one AirPod in so I could, just listen to music as I do this work for the next 3 to 4 hours before break. And he notices that, and he tells something to my mom like, hey, like make sure that he's working, because if not, he's gonna have to leave. And my mom took offense to that. She's like, I brought him here. I know what he's capable of. Like, you can't just automatically assume just because he wants to put like music in. Like, I know he can listen too. That's never been a problem. So at that point, it became like a personal issue. And my mom was like, I want you to apologize for, assuming that of my son. If not, I'm just going to leave.
And he did? He apologized?
No.
Oh, okay.
So
she stood up for you.
She stood up for me because she told me that just because we do this work and we need the work does not mean that you just like push aside all morale for the work.
That's profound. Mm-hmm. That's profound. Just thinking about the ways in which our elders, our parents, our loved ones pass on knowledge. And it doesn't matter what they do for a job. They're always passing on knowledge and teaching us character and teaching us how to be in the world. Like, this guy was a supervisor, but that didn't mean he had to be disrespectful. Mm-hmm. And so for him to correct him and to look up for you, that's incredible. Okay, so we're at the middle of the day now.
Yeah.
What's for lunch?
So for the most part, we would just eat a burrito that had either like beans, egg, potato. That was basically our main diet. And to drink, it was always water because it's important to stay hydrated. It's very hot. It gets very hot while you're working in the fields. So that's pretty much what we ate every day. I mean, but I think it's just because like
Did you come back with like any kind of injury or sunburn or chapped lips, or what kind of stuff did you come back with?
So I think considering how long my mom's been doing the work, she kind of already knows things to keep in mind, like the right shoe attire that you need for the work, because sometimes it can get too muddy, so you need to be cautious of that. So it's like type of like sort of like boots that you need to wear so that you can minimize like how dirty you get and any sort of like possibility of injury. When it comes to being sunburned, that's the reason why agriculture workers wear like a hat on top of a hoodie, because even I've had people like ask me like, why do they do that? Because when it get too hot, well, it's actually a way to like protect yourself from the heat, right? So you don't get sunburned. It doesn't affect you because you're out there for long hours. So that's the main reason why. So,
Wow.
But yeah, Yeah,
So but no big injuries for you like out there.
cuts, cuts and stuff. But I would say the biggest thing is the physical toll. After the first week, I could hardly move,
Your
hardly move.
muscles are hurting.
Yeah, exactly. And
What muscles? Like legs, back?
everything, my legs, it was hard to like move around, my back. So I always had that feeling like I want to lay down because it's
Mm.
such a big toll on your body. And so for me, it was shocking because, we had that day of work. And obviously, I also see my mom working. And, when it comes to doing the fields, like, right. So I finished one line, my mom would already be done with three. Right.
Mm.
And so coming back, and I'm like looking at my mom, and she's fine. She's just carrying on about her day, taking care of other responsibilities. Like, oh, I got to pick up, like my sister, right? Or I got to help my brother with taking him to work or something like that. And then the whole time I'm like looking at her, I'm like, how are you able to still move at, like it's nothing. And I'm over here, like I can hardly move myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And yeah, so
Wow. Just taking that in, right? The power of a parent that has dreams. The power of a parent that has sueños. Wow. So you are in the fields,
yeah,
barely able to move after a 1 week of work.
yeah.
And at the same time, you're this fancy scholar that I don't even know the name of your scholarship. So tell us the name of your scholarship at UC Berkeley, full ride, 4 years. How does one get that scholarship? Just give us context.
So the scholarship that I have, it's a full ride scholarship. That means that it includes housing, it includes tuition, and it includes the books that you'll need. Right. So there's a certain sum so that you can cover your books as well. The scholarship is called Fiat Lux. And the way that someone can acquire that scholarship is that Fiat Lux actually partners with high schools throughout certain districts, right? So if your school is partnered with Fiat Lux, so I went to Salinas High School and they actually had that partnership, right? Meaning that some students who are accepted into Berkeley can come out with a full ride scholarship. I think their main focus is to be able to provide marginalized youth with closing that gap, giving them the opportunity, like let's make it happen so that you can come to UC Berkeley, regardless of your financial background. So for me, at least in my experience talking to the people there, from what they've told me is that their first priority is looking at the finance side of the student that they're considering. So for me, it was like, my mom is making probably $16,000 a year. So going to Berkeley was not feasible. But then when they look at the rest of my application, the things that I've done for my community, it's like, well, we need him here.
We need them here, and it's not like you know Berkeley let you in because you're some broke kid. That's not how Berkeley does it.
No.
I know Berkeley. I went to Berkeley. There's a lot of people that are low income that don't get in. So you got to earn your way into Berkeley.
Yeah.
So I want to get there because you earned your way. I want to know how you earned your way to Berkeley, to what I consider your first stage of success, right? Getting yourself to a big school on a full ride. But before we go there, so you just walk me through it, a full day of being in the fields working. I want to get to little Jose. Let's go to Jose's second, third grade.
Yeah.
All right, you got responsibilities. You're looking out for your little siblings.
Yeah.
Um, what's going through your mind? Like, what's happening? To walk me through your routine that morning.
So for me, regularly, I would wake up on the schedule of my mom. So depending when she had to go to the fields, that's when me and my siblings would have to wake up. So it'd be like me waking them up, making sure that they're up, having everything that they need for school, their backpacks, any sort of materials that they need.
How old are you?
About 8 years old,
8 years old. And and how old are they?
So we're actually 4 years apart. So my brother at the time was probably 11, 12, and then my youngest sister, who at the time was 5 or 6. So she probably would stay more with the babysitter, and wait till my mom comes back. But just making sure that they're that they have everything that they need, so that when we leave with my mom at about 4:30 to 5, because it was usually like about an hour, right? It would take us about an hour to be ready to leave. So brushing our teeth and all that stuff, all the hygiene stuff. And once we got there, then it would be us it'd be us getting there, getting situated, and then I would have to just make sure that they sleep and, get the rest that they need so that they can carry on about their day. So we would sleep and I'd wake up probably about 7, maybe earlier in the morning, just to be able to head out to school, have some breakfast with the babysitter, which my mom would accommodate for, so that there would be something available for us to eat in the morning, and then she'd take us to school.
Mm.
Hmm.
And this wasn't like the safest communities and environments, right? I mean, there was
Yeah,
violence, drug abuse, that kind of stuff that you saw as a little kid. And I
yeah,
know in the film, you talk about seeing someone, I think someone got shot
yeah,
and you were 8 years old.
yeah. I was 8 years old. When it comes down to that instance, I was about 8. There's a house in front actually of where the documentary takes place, right? There's the white apartments. In front of that is a greenhouse where a good friend of mine lived. And basically me and my brother went over on like a Saturday to sleep over and just, play games, hang out and have fun. And then towards the nighttime, that's when we heard a commotion. It was an argument. And mind you, we're young, right? So we don't really know how to respond to these sort of situations. His dad was already asleep, just expecting us to be playing games like regular children would. And then once we see them arguing, for for whatever reason, our first thought was let's go to like the balcony area, so like the front of the house, and see like what the argument is about. And so we're out there, and now that I'm older, it was two people, probably gang related in some way, who were having an argument amongst themselves, right? So they both were carrying a gun, and then towards that argument, it led to one shooting the other.
Mm.
Right. But before that altercation could end, right, he knows we're there. He looks at us because, I'm assuming he shot his friend out of the argument. And then his first thought was for the witnesses. Right.
Mm.
So he looks around, he sees us, but then he sees that there's two other people across from him. Right. So there's the white apartments, and then there's apartments next to it, right? They're like brown, right? And there was two people, and I actually knew one of them was my friend's brother, and then the other one was his friend, right? And so they were also there, probably just talking amongst themselves, but now shocked about the situation that had gone on. And so the person's reaction was to shoot both of them. And my friend's brother came off with losing his finger. He lost his thumb in the
Oh.
altercation, and I think it might have scraped his face in some way. But his friend passed away. So there was
Mm.
two fatalities
How
at
old
that
were they?
incident. I would say probably in early 20s, 21,
Wow.
22, and then um, probably just fresh out of high school. Maybe.
Wow.
Hmm.
I mean, this is tragic, and that kind of trauma must follow you in some way. Growing up, did you like have situations where you're like, this, you were a little disturbed by what had happened?
Yeah, as a kid, I feel like I've always had moments of I want to go out, I want to have fun, I want to enjoy, some simple things like a park, but then I'm always rooted to those moments where it's like there's that fear of the risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So along my journey, going through education and progressing myself, I kind of have found that the risk shouldn't keep me from things that as a person I should be able to enjoy.
Mm.
But even among that, my mom's made it a priority for our safety.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes in the documentary, you see the apartments get, well, at least in my opinion, worse and worse, right? Like there's
Mm.
different things about it that make it not as appealing. And because our priority was always our safety, so once that incident had happened, that next week we were gone.
So she would always move you because she didn't want you around
The violence.
the violence. And
Hmm.
there's that moment in the documentary where that she opens that fridge and that fridge is empty, and it's just like, man, it's heart dropping because y'all are little, man. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you want to show up and feed those babies, and I bet you think about that a lot. Like, how do I go back and make sure that I feed those little ones that don't have food? Because I know I went through that. I know there's kids out there that are struggling with just basic needs like hunger.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that I push is, having that mentality to get through it. Something that I always talk to educators about is, have teaching these students to be problem solvers because, you want them to get so good at it that whatever problems they have at home, they can solve those too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I was taught by Mr. Ramos, and that's what's helped me.
Let's go back. Let's go to Mr. Ramos. Hey, Mr. Ramos is a homie, man. Like I met him. He was up there. I wasn't meant to meet him. I didn't set it up to meet him. He was just up there, the front row. They didn't know I was going to show a clip of the video. They didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
He's at the front, 1,000 people. He's at the front row, raises his hand. I know that boy, and I know where he's at. He's at UC Berkeley on a full ride. Hey, that's a homie. So let's talk about the homie, Mr. Ramos, because there are angels on this planet, man. They're
100%.
human angels, and they will motivate you. They will inspire. They believe in you. And you could be moving like you were from home to home, having a mom that has to leave the house and leave the babies there on their own and figure themselves out. Of course, not by choice, because that's the only way she's gonna make any money to put a roof over you guys' head. Yeah. You can have, traumatic experience, man, seeing people getting shot at 8 years old. You have all this stuff happening to you, and the teacher's still like, you're gonna do something big in life. I believe in you. You're going places, Jose, and let me show you one of those places you're gonna go. And that's called college. Come with me. And you're a little boy. And are you like, what are you talking about, teacher? You're crazy? Or are you like receiving this information like, hey, teacher, thank you for showing me this world. I didn't even know it existed.
I think for me, I was always shown by my mom to, I set these things up for you to be able to, receive these opportunities because something that we're always told is that doors will open for you, but it's up to you whether you'll walk in them, right? And so my mom always made it a priority. Like, if a door opens, I want you to take it. I want you to walk inside because that's why I sacrifice so much. I don't sacrifice it so that the opportunities are only an option, right? And so I remember when I was watching the introduction to your podcast, you had mentioned that oftentimes we get so caught up in the dream that we forget to follow through with it, right? And so my mom always made it priority, follow through, because he's providing the layout for you, but you have to put in the work, right? You have to make that initiative, make sure that dream comes true.
What was her education like? What was her journey?
My mom, she was actually doing really good in school. She did in Mexico, in Mexicali, Baja California, and she was a great student. But when she was a sophomore in high school, she had my brother, and connecting it to like her beliefs and like my grandma's beliefs. It's like now it's about my brother. Now you have to focus and put him first, because over there it's not really like it's not really that common for people to understand like you can find that balance of both worlds. Like I know you have, right? You've done it before, and but it's not something that's like normal over there. So to her it was like everything is now second. And
she was a teen mom, and 16. Then she has to find her way on her own now.
16 years old
at 16. Teen mom, 16, and now she's got to figure out how to put food on the table for that one baby, and then eventually more of you coming along. But let's think about how our families, despite low education, despite coming from poverty, despite being seen by the world as less than, right? Well, oh, you guys are just agricultural workers, or for my mom, she was washing dishes at restaurants, or you guys are immigrants, or all the words they used for some of us, that live in this society and seen as minorities, right? It's like, man, like we contribute. And not only do we contribute, like we have dreams, and then our kids grow up and they live our dreams. And so for your mom to have the skill set to say, hey, I don't have opportunities besides these fields, but when you guys see a door and someone says, open it, you better open it,
Yeah.
because that's why I'm sacrificing, breaking my back every day so that you guys can make it. What a powerful, powerful message to pass on.
Yeah, it's funny because my mom had actually met Miss Ramos in one of his. So Miss Ramos actually does a lot for the community, in like the Sherwood area. He does food drives, clothing drives. And my mom had actually met him through a clothing drive that he was having before I was in his class. So she
Mm.
already had a really good like image of him, but she didn't realize that he was an educator, that he was a teacher. So when I was in his when I got to his classroom, she always told me like, you make sure to, listen to him, right?
Because he's that angel in the community, that
Yeah,
human angel in the community doing the work. And all
yeah,
of a sudden, serendipitously, you end up in his classroom
yeah.
and he starts talking to you. So walk me, like, what's it like being a little boy, mom's struggling, you guys are broke, barely have any food, having to help your siblings out. And he starts showing you some opportunities like, hey, check this out. This is what college is like. What are you receiving this information? Are you like thinking like that's not for me? What's going on in your head?
I think so. For one, Miss Ramos does these actions from experience. I'm just one of many success stories that he's been able to create.
Mm,
One of the few that gets talked about, but he has many, right? Students that he's been
mm,
able to take from, you were in my third grade class, but now you're thriving and you're, in college or in a career. So he's already had that experience. He knows that he's made that blueprint for himself. He's developed it over time. And so when I walked into his classroom and he saw the potential in me as he sees in all his students, but he also saw how I received his advice, his dichos, right? His sayings. It was like, okay, let me see if I could take it a step further.
what's one of his dichos? One of his sayings?
One of his sayings was always like, just because you grow up with so little doesn't mean you have to, stay accustomed to it, right? And it's just
Mm,
like it's okay to dream if even if you have so
mm.
little, right?
So just because you're coming up with so little doesn't mean you have to stay little.
Yeah, because
I like
he
it.
he saw my lifestyle. He
Yeah.
saw me always being hungry. He saw me walking into the class with little sleep, lack of sleep, and
Why were you lacking sleep?
because I had to go to the babysitter early in the morning and then having to like disturb my sleep schedule and then waking up
Mm,
like an hour and a half later. And that disturbance kind of made it an issue where, around lunchtime or like even before that, I'd be falling asleep and losing
mm,
focus. But he saw that and he recognized it because he had lived a similar lifestyle.
mhm.
So he knew how to accommodate that. So
He had parents. He was a field worker
yeah,
too.
yeah, he was. He knew that lifestyle. He knew exactly what I was going through.
He felt it. He
Hmm.
sensed it. He knew it.
Yeah,
And he passed this message on, hey, just because you come from very little doesn't mean you gotta stay little. And you
exactly.
were like, I'm a get big then. I'm
I'm
gonna
a
get big
dream.
like you, Mr. Ramos. So he went to Berkeley. He takes you to Berkeley on a field trip. Walk me through that day. How old are you when he takes you on a field trip?
I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I was in third grade. The year had actually just wrapped up, and it was like, "Hey, I have this field trip for the sixth graders, and I'm gonna make sure that you're there." So he did all he could. I think he talked to the superintendent. He was like, "I need him here. I'll pay for everything that comes with adding him on. Just I just want to make sure that he can go with us." And they were like, "Yeah, do it." And so I showed up. I wasn't supposed to be there, but he made it happen for me to be there. And so for him, it was like there's two parts to it. That was him showing me what I can like what a dream could look like for me. Because all I know is just agriculture. All I know is struggle, poverty, right? I know school is a something that I need to do, but there's no I didn't see what was after that, right? So I'm kind of like walking with a blindfold. And so him taking me there was him showing me how far I can dream. But then once I got back to the classroom, right, it was like, let me show you what you need to carry on with you so that you could turn that dream into a reality.
Mm. Now you lose track of him. He teaches you some skills like, hey, you want this sueño to become a success. You need to
Yeah.
take these steps. So he's teaching you this
Yeah.
and you lose track of him in fourth grade, right?
Yeah.
You
Fourth
disappear, you
grade.
go to another community or something, right?
Yeah.
So how do you guys reconnect?
So it was we actually stayed in contact through a portion of my fourth grade year because he heard that I was going to move away because of that instance where someone had gotten shot, and my mom fearful of something like that happening to us, which is completely true.
Mhm.
I wasn't me and my friends were just right there in the balcony. That could have been us,
Mhm.
right? So she made a priority for us to move, but she let Miss Ramos know, like, hey, once this year wraps up, he's leaving. He's going
Mm.
somewhere else. And Miss Ramos was like, okay, well, actually, because it happened while I was still in third grade. So he was like,
Mm.
Is it okay with you if I help get Jose to school so he could finish the third grade?
Mm.
Right. And then once I made it to fourth grade, I was still living in that same area, but then something else happens. Right. And it's that same situation where there's violence around us and my mom feeling that need to, we have to go.
What
Right.
happened this time?
So I was living in at the time I was going to a school called Cesar Chavez, right? And in that area where it's like the greenhouse that I was living in, my family, we were all just at home. And one night, someone comes and knocks on the door really hard, banging on it. And my mom, she creaks it open. She's like, hello, like, what, how can I help you? But in Spanish, of course. And the guy is just, telling her like I'm gonna die. Please let
Whoa.
me find shelter in your home. And like they're like someone's out to kill me right now. And I need to hide. Can you please let me stay? And she's like, I have three kids. I'm sorry that you're going through that, but I can't help you because I have three kids. So I hope everything goes well. She closes the door. We hear him running. Soon after, we hear the shot. And that
Mm.
man dies.
Oh, man. Wow. That must have been heavy on the whole family.
Was. I feel like growing up, I've kind of filtered that out, but as I've gotten older, I've learned to like kind of accept that that's kind of where I've came from, and a big motivator of why I need to push for the success of the people in my community because I know what it's like.
To see and feel violence at your door.
Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, let me ask you a question, what do you do for your well-being, like having gone through these traumatic experiences? What are some practices you have in place now to, like, when you're talking about this stuff or thinking
Yeah.
about this stuff twice in your life, seeing this stuff?
I have so it's actually my mom who always helps us with this sort of process. So I feel like the biggest reason why I'm able to thrive and go for higher things in life is because she's made it a priority for us to understand the value of family. So
Mm.
when those things were happening, she's always making an effort to talk with us and always ensuring us that, like, sorry, mijo, we have to move because your
Mhm.
safety is above everything else. And she's taught us things like the world is difficult, right? And because of that, you should always be fighting the world, not the family, right? So now,
Mm.
like, we don't have to worry about, you know, me and my family. We never have any sort of like problems amongst ourselves. We don't bother with those sort of things because there's bigger things to handle and
So it's
deal with.
brought you guys together as a family. So the
Yeah,
way that you deal with the traumas of the outside is you make sure you guys are a healthy family on the inside
yeah.
and stay together and
Stick
back each other
together,
up.
staying strong. Oh, and she's always reminding me of the visions ahead.
Mm.
Like, I'm sorry that you had to be exposed to this violence, but I'm gonna take every initiative I can for you to get to the end goal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I hear you. There's a moment in my own life where I was 18 starting college, and
Yeah.
I was at a family party. We had a big party in front of my house, actually. And it was like 40 of us family members. And we were partying on the street. And one of my uncles, unfortunately, was murdered that night in front of the whole family. And another one was shot a bunch of times. He survived, but
Yeah.
little kids saw it, family saw it. It was if it was hard on me at 18, I could only imagine what it was like for my little cousins that saw it and they were younger and it was happened to their dad. And then I can imagine what it's like for a little, you know,
Mhm.
kid to see that. I mean, growing up, I saw dead bodies as well, but like that stuff hunts you in life. It chases you, and it creates this skeleton under your bed, and is always kind of creeping. And if you don't find ways and strategies to control it, contain it, regulate yourself in a way you live a life of trying to heal yourself, man, it'll take over. And it'll lead you to madness, anger, fear, trauma, dysregulation, being mean to people, having a cold heart. So I guess what I'm telling you, Jose, is that I'm proud of you because despite all the darkness you've been through in life,
Yeah.
you're a person that's always shining a light.
It's all I've known to do. It's all I've been shown I could do.
Yeah. And Mr. Ramos, let's go back to the homie Ramos. I mean, he takes you to Berkeley, sneaks you on a field trip to Berkeley. You get to Berkeley, you're like, hey, I'm coming here. High school days were a little, rough. I know you didn't have
housing insecurities.
Yeah, you were housing. You didn't have secure housing, or you were housing insecure, as you mentioned. And then you had to live with friends, right? In high school.
Yeah, I did.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So that actually ties back to the reason why I had those housing insecurities is because when I was a freshman, my mom actually got robbed at gunpoint, and it happened when she was about to make the payment for the apartment that we were staying at the time. And you get to see it. Like, I know in one of the updates, it shows like an apartment, and I'm a little bit older, right? It's kind of like red and like beige. So we were there at the time, and because of that,
when you say updates, is this forthcoming or already out there?
It's already out there.
Oh, some updates on the documentary.
Yeah, I'll do it all myself. Some people will probably see it.
How old are you in the updates?
In the update, I'm in 7th grade.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so probably like 11.
Yeah. And so this is around this time your mom ends up getting robbed.
Yeah, she gets robbed, and that kind of that actually started a cycle of that housing insecurity for us, because the biggest thing that even I had to understand is that like the down payment, that's the hardest thing for us to have to with the wage that she would earn. It's like, now it's like, how am I supposed to do that again?
Yeah.
Right. So for a while, I was homeless, and I remember my mom knew that this was going to happen for a while, and all she could do is try to build herself up financially before we eventually just left. She didn't wait for us to get evicted or nothing like that. She already had a good connection with the person that we would pay the rent to, and she was like, she let him know like, hey, this happened. I wish I could stay, and because I enjoy staying here with you. The area has been pretty safe for us, but this happened. So on this day, is it okay if we leave? Like, if we can stay for this long before we leave? I said, okay, yeah, that's completely fine. I understand. And so one day I just woke up, and my mom was like, Mijo, I'm sorry, but we have to leave. So pack anything that you can, and everything else we're going to leave behind.
Wow. It was quick move. Yeah. Wow. So, man, this journey is a powerful journey. You're in high school, you're living with friends, and then what kept you motivated? Were you in touch with Mr. Ramos? What kept you going, knowing that you were so close to not even being able to get yourself to school?
I think by that time I already had because before, when I was younger, it was harder for me to maintain connections, right? And so it was kind of like my friends kind of came and went, right? And so when I was already in high school, I had already established a really strong connection with the people that I was around in high school. They helped a lot in, kind of being like, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to be here, and kind of maintain my priorities. Mr. Ramos, like, hey, what can I do for you? Like, how can I help you? Right. And so to kind of explain what Mr. Ramos did for me, I was homeless for about 3 to 4 months during the school year of my freshman year. And so I was living in a hotel, and Mr. Ramos and Jackie were the ones who were helping us with being able to stay afloat.
Jackie is a staff member for the school district. Yeah.
Jackie is one of the filmmakers.
One of the filmmakers.
Yeah.
Got it.
So she, her and Laura, continuously checked up on me. And
so not only were they filming you, They're
Yeah.
finding ways to support you.
We're family,
Yeah.
you know.
You turned out to be like
We turn out
a
like
family member
yeah,
because they knew you were going through it.
once the film was over, the whole like the plan was like, okay, the film's done. Goodbye, Jose. Hope you
Mhm.
have a good life. That's about it. You know, maybe like we have a contact information if you ever need us. But then that kind of grew into like you're like family now. So we're gonna make that
Wow.
initiative to, check up on you and be there.
Another earth angel, man.
Yeah.
Human angel. Like, well, there's no like, filmmaker producing content on on social justice issues, social issues. Um, he gets a grant, gets funded, films, says, "Hey, I know there's struggle here. Let me report it to the world. I did my job. I'm out."
Yeah.
But another layer of being someone that is there despite and beyond the job you got.
Yeah.
And those kinds of people on this earth, man, but when they come around, they're incredible human beings. So Mr. Ramos, Jackie,
Or
helping you out. You're staying at a hotel, and continue.
yeah, and so afterward, after those 4 months, we kind of got to a point like because at the entire time, my mom was just continuously looking for a place that we could stay, but there was nothing available. Right, checking like Facebook Marketplace or like checking out laundromats for any like things that were posted up. So for a while, we were just kind of there because there was no other option, and so it got to a point where we got a little bit frustrated about how things had to be, and my mom was kind of at a point where she had to make a decision like, do I take you somewhere else, do we go somewhere else, so that you can have that housing stability, right? It's a difficult lifestyle, when we were at a Motel 6 for those 4 months, and there's things as crazy as like prostitution around us, right? And whenever I'm going out late at night trying to get some food or something, which oftentimes was like in and out or like a gasoline station, being surrounded by things like that, and obviously my mom not being okay with it, she kind of grew that frustration. Like I need to, just like before, and the other times, like I need to find somewhere else. And so we actually were able to stay at in a garage for a time period just because that was the only thing available. I think she found like in a laundromat or something like that. And so we, immediately we went over there. It was like $700 a month. And I stayed there for about 3 months. And, that entire time it was difficult because um, the conditions, right? The
You were
conditions, like
cold at night.
cold at night. You know,
Bathroom.
the bathroom was outside.
When you need to go to the bathroom, you have to go
Yeah.
outside.
Yeah, there was like a build sort of situation. Like they kind of built something, but it's
It
still
was
very
like what kind of a build? Was it a real toilet with flushed?
like the toilet worked and everything, but it was kind of like wooden fences, but still with like gaps in between. So it was kind of like
Like an outhouse, but with an actual toilet.
yeah,
And you had to get up. If you had to go at night, you had to get up, go in the cold, go
yeah.
into the outhouse.
And the shower was built in to the garage, but very unsanitary, unprofessional. Which it's understandable. Like the guy tried, right? But the whole thing is that it was unsanitary and um yeah, so I already know that those small things got to my mom a lot. And, after staying there for about 2 to 3 months, and at that time it was already like probably summertime, she was like, hey, like we have to go somewhere else. Like, and she was considering going to Coachella, where it's like close to her agriculture work. And then, I could just continue high school over there. But I had a and I was actually considering it because it was like, I don't, not only do I not want to see this for myself. I mean, I'm all right. I'm a very optimistic person, but I want to see this for my mom.
Mm,
My mom's really good at hiding, the emotions that come
yeah.
with these struggles. But there was times when I knew that she was breaking, right? It was difficult for
Yeah.
sure. When she thinks I'm gone, but I'm actually still there, and she's tearing up, crying, and those are difficult things to watch.
That's probably what's motivated you to like stick it through, handle business. You're a third year at Berkeley now. You and when it gets hard at Berkeley, man, and professors give you all this homework and you got to stay up all night studying, getting ready for midterms and finals, and you're like, man, this is hard work. You probably like think, no, what my mom is doing is hard work.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Yeah, all the time. And
Wow.
it's even things as simple as like, hey, I've noticed that you have for the week, like your attire looks exactly the same, but you're doing all these efforts for me to have like clothing and, the essentials that I need for me to be able to go to school and, so many sacrifices and,
Mm.
you
She
know,
wears the same outfit because instead of buying herself clothes
she
as a
bought for me.
woman, she's buying her baby's clothes.
Yeah, and obviously, like my siblings never came out of the equation. In
Mm.
those housing insecurity moments, my mom felt like the best thing to do was to have them stay with my grandma in Mexico. But she still has to send them and provide for them so that they can have that
Yeah,
stability over there.
man. Okay, so you're walking me through this powerful journey, and I want to read you a little research on, you know, being first. Because you're a pioneer, man. Like your mom built this that you call it the ground, so that you can get to the clouds and then get to the stars. And and so now you're in the clouds, right? You're at Berkeley, man. That place is the clouds, man. Everyone's like in the clouds, like thinking big picture, like tons of little Einsteins at Berkeley, like thinking about
Yeah,
how to make this world a better place, how to
yeah,
build the next technology. All of this stuff is happening there.
yeah,
You're there, man. You're headed to be a social worker one day.
yeah,
You're looking back at all this struggle, man, and you're first. So being the first in your family to achieve something, whether it's graduating high school, attending college, or entering a professional career, it requires this resilience and vision. It's not just about individual success, it's about rewriting our narrative for an entire
mm,
family and our community. And that's what you talk about. So think about it. First generation college students are more likely to leave college without obtaining a degree. So the fact that you've stuck around 3 years, man, that's
yeah,
incredible. 43%, though, of first generation college students do not stay. They leave, man. They leave college, they drop out. And only 20% of non first generation college students drop out. So we have the double disadvantage when we start college. And
wow,
despite this gap, right, students like you are often the backbone of a generational shift. You defy the odds while juggling
yeah,
immense responsibilities like financially supporting your family, navigating
yeah,
institutions that not they're not designed for you and mine
yeah,
or other first generation students. They're designed for people that come from the middle class, that got parents that went to college and teach them the ropes.
yeah,
So these struggles are real, but so are your strengths.
yeah,
To the 2023 study by the National Center for Education Statistics found that 45% of first generation students report contributing financially to their family while attending college. We're always having to
yeah,
break
definitely.
ourselves some right to our family. Man, I got cousins, I got tios, like I got everybody, but hey, man, we're gonna take care of our family.
Yeah,
Being first can sometimes take a psychological toll, though. Research from the Journal of Counseling Psychology found that first generation students are 30% more likely um, to experience anxiety and imposter syndrome than their peers. Talk to me, Jose. I know when you were roaming
yeah.
around Berkeley, man, and you're thinking about the family and community back in Salinas, California, you feeling anxiety or imposter syndrome?
I think imposter syndrome is known to be you're capable of this, but you might not believe it yourself. And so the entire narrative that I've grown up around is that I'm beating a statistic because it's something that I am capable of doing. And it's always been, going past high school and making it into higher education. But now I'm in higher education. I'm at UC Berkeley, a really prestigious, difficult college to kind of get through, right? And so you mentioned the numbers of what if of like of students who end up not finishing their time at the university, and I'm seeing it, in real time. And on top of that, I'm also meeting people who that statistic was always in favor for, and seeing the differences between us from the quality of their education, the time that they spent preparing themselves, what they grew up around, it kind of creates that imposter syndrome. And at times it made me feel like, because I'm always recognizing that imposter syndrome, it's something that I've always had to recognize even in high school.
Hmm.
And I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, is it really imposter syndrome if I don't even think I'm capable of getting through it, because before it was like I feel that this imposter syndrome because of what I'm going through, but I know I'm capable of getting through it because I have the results coming through.
What drives you to get through?
But what drives me to get through is always my family.
Uh, there's a study by the Pell Institute. It reported that 78% of first generation college students are driven to succeed, survey says, to create a better life for their families. It's powerful, man.
Yeah.
First generation students are more likely to mentor others and return to their communities to lift others up. I mean, there's other research in educational leadership, for example. It highlights that
Yeah.
first generation college graduates are 40% more likely to mentor other students. So when you're first gen, you're out there trying to help others because you know what it's like to not
Yeah.
have the guidance, the resources, the support.
Yeah.
Another report from the American Council on Education shows that 70% of first generation college graduates return to their communities to engage in service or mentorship. We always give back. That's all we
Yeah.
know because
Yeah.
someone gave to us, like Mr. Ramos,
Yeah.
like Jackie, others in the community. Now we're going to give back. First gen students are proof that resilience breeds impact, and their stories illuminate the path for so many others. Let's not forget that being a shining light for your family isn't just about personal achievement, it's about sparking a fire that ignites generational change. Y'all hear Jose's story, it's inspiring, and we know that your future and career goals are going to be incredible. First generation students, you're rewriting family legacies one step at a time. Thank you, Jose, for sharing your powerful story,
Thank
your
you.
journey. I mean, it reminds us that our challenges can become our greatest strengths. To our listeners, let's reflect on how we can uplift the first generation students and families in our communities. Remember, every light you spark in someone else also brightens your own path. This has been another episode of Sueños to Success with Dr. Victor Rios. To hear more about Jose's future trajectory and his new film, a new documentary giving updates, check out my website, drvictorrios.com, and also check out the links in the podcast. Stay inspired, and as always, keep striving to be the light in your own life and for those around you. Until next time, take care. Be blessed. Thank you, Jose.